Spooktober's here, and with every dusk, Eerie Instants unveils a new tale. 31 days, 31 stories. Hit subscribe and journey into the unknown with us. The city's skyline basked in the hues of dusk, casting long shadows on the streets below. In the dimming light, people huddled in corners, their phones illuminating their faces with a soft glow. They whispered, sharing secrets of an app that only came alive on this particular day. In a modest apartment overlooking the city, Jamie sat on her worn-out couch, her fingers scrolling through her social media feed. Posts about unlucky match kept popping up, some cautionary, others daring. A friend had posted, "Whatever you do, don't download it," followed by a string of nervous emojis. Another had shared a screenshot of the app with the caption, "Feeling brave tonight." Jamie's curiosity was piqued. She had heard rumors about the app, but had never given it much thought. But tonight, the solitude of her apartment and the weight of another lonely evening made her reconsider. What harm could there be in just looking? She found the app on the store, its icon a simple black heart against a blood-red background. The reviews were a mix of 5 stars and 1 star, nothing in between. The positive ones raved about the thrilling experience, while the negatives simply read, "Don't." With a mix of trepidation and excitement, Jamie downloaded the app. It opened to a stark interface, just a single button in the center that read, "Find your unlucky match." She hesitated for a moment, then pressed it. Almost instantly, a profile appeared. The picture was shadowy, almost indistinct, but the message was clear. "Meet me at the Labyrinth Bistro, 8 p.m. The name of the sender was obscured, showing only your match. Jamie's heart raced. The Labyrinth Bistro was a quirky place she had passed by several times, but had never entered. Its windows were always frosted, and the entrance was guarded by a heavy velvet curtain. It was said to be one of the city's best-kept secrets. She glanced at the clock. 7:15 p.m. On a whim, she decided to go. She quickly changed into a casual dress, applied a touch of makeup, and headed out. The city seemed different tonight. The usual cacophony was replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by hushed conversations. As Jamie walked, she felt the weight of curious eyes on her, as if the city itself was watching her every move. She reached the Labyrinth Bistro at 7:55 p.m. The entrance was illuminated by a single lantern, its flame dancing wildly. Taking a deep breath, she pushed aside the velvet curtain and stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, with candles casting flickering shadows on the walls. An overly cheerful host greeted her, his smile a bit too wide, his eyes a bit too bright. "Ah, you must be Jamie," he said, leading her to a table where her date awaited. As she took her seat, Jamie couldn't help but notice the other diners. They were all paired off, their faces inches apart, staring deeply into each other's eyes. None of them ate, none of them spoke. They just stared. She turned her attention to her date, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy. But as the evening began, she would soon realize that normal was a luxury she might never experience again. Jamie's date was an enigma. Tall, with a shadowed face, he leaned across the table, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the glass of water. The dim light of the restaurant made it hard to discern his features, but his voice was smooth and almost hypnotic. "So, Jamie," he began, a sly grin playing on his lips. "Ever thought about the best way to escape a maze?" She blinked, taken aback by the odd question. "Can't say I have," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Why do you ask?" He shrugged, his eyes never leaving hers. "Just a thought." This place reminds me of a maze sometimes. Jamie glanced around. The restaurant was indeed peculiar. The walls seemed to shift subtly, and the other patrons were eerily silent, their faces obscured by shadows. They all sat, not eating, just staring into each other's eyes. Trying to shake off the unease, Jamie focused on the menu. But when the food arrived, it was nothing short of bizarre. A plate of what looked like wriggling worms, a bowl of soup that emitted a ghostly glow, and a drink that bubbled and hissed as if alive. "Go on," her date urged, pointing to the wriggling dish. "It's a delicacy here." Jamie hesitated, but not wanting to seem rude, she took a tentative bite. It tasted surprisingly normal, but the sensation of it moving in her mouth was unsettling. As the evening wore on, Jamie's discomfort grew. She tried to steer the conversation to more mundane topics, but her date seemed fixated on the peculiar. He spoke of shadows that whispered secrets, of doors that led to nowhere, and of the importance of always having a candle in one's pocket. Feeling trapped, Jamie excused herself, hoping to find an exit. But every corridor she took, every door she opened, led her right back to her table. Panic began to set in. She tried to approach other diners for help, but they all responded with the same vacant stare and monotone phrase, "Just finish the date." Returning to her table, Jamie felt a hand on her shoulder. It was her date, his face now inches from hers. "Trying to leave so soon?" he whispered, his breath cold against her skin. She mustered all her courage. "What's going on? Why can't I leave?" He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "We're both trapped, but there's a way out." Jamie's heart raced. Was this some sick game? Or was there genuinely a way to escape this nightmarish date? Before she could ponder further, the lights in the restaurant dimmed, casting everything into deeper shadows. The eerie silence was broken only by the soft, haunting tune that began to play, echoing through the twisted corridors of the restaurant. "We need to find the heart of the restaurant," he whispered, his voice tinged with a mix of fear and excitement. "It's our only way out." She glanced around the maze-like restaurant, its walls seemingly pulsating and shifting. The vacant-eyed patrons continued their silent vigil, their stares unnerving. "What is this heart?" Jamie asked, trying to keep the panic from her voice. He hesitated, then said, "It's a dish. A dish so terrifying that few have dared to try it. But legend says that if you take a bite, you can break free." Without another word, they began their search. The restaurant seemed to have a life of its own, corridors elongating, rooms appearing and disappearing. Every turn they took led to another bizarre scene. A table where the dishes floated in midair. A room filled with mirrors, reflecting endless versions of Jamie and her date. As they navigated the labyrinth, grotesque obstacles blocked their path. A waiter with elongated arms tried to ensnare Jamie, while shadowy figures whispered chilling tales of those who tried to escape before. But Jamie's determination fueled her on. The thought of being trapped in this nightmarish place forever was motivation enough. Finally, after what felt like hours, they stumbled upon a room different from the rest. In its center stood a solitary table upon which sat a single, unassuming dish. It looked surprisingly normal, a simple plate of food, but the aura it emitted was palpable. "The heart of the restaurant," her date murmured. Jamie approached it, hesitantly. "So I just take a bite?" He nodded, but there was a strange gleam in his eyes. "One bite, and we're free." Gathering her courage, Jamie took a forkful and brought it to her lips. The moment she tasted it, the world around her shifted. Her vision blurred, her senses heightened, and a flood of emotions and memories that weren't her own overwhelmed her. She realized, with growing horror, that the heart contained the essence of all the trapped souls in the restaurant. She turned to her date, betrayal evident in her eyes. "You knew," she accused. He smirked, the charming facade now gone. "I wasn't trapped, Jamie. I was the bait. And you, my dear, are the newest addition to our collection." Jamie felt a pull, an irresistible force dragging her back to the main dining area. She tried to resist, but it was futile. As she was seated at a table, she felt her consciousness fading, her essence being absorbed by the restaurant. The last thing she saw was her date, waving her off with a mocking salute before he disappeared into the shadows, ready to lure in the next unsuspecting victim. The restaurant continued its sinister dance, the city around it oblivious to the horrors within. And somewhere, in the vast digital realm, the unlucky match app pinged on another phone, its icon gleaming malevolently, waiting for its next prey.